Good evening, everyone. Today we have with us Kamran. Kamran, can you quickly introduce yourself, please?
Hey everyone, my name is Kamran. I am a student mentor with AdmitCard for almost 3 years now.
And your background, Kamran.
Oh yeah, it's I'm a alumni of the State University of New York at Buffalo, where I completed my master's in computer science in 2020.
Great. So today's topic is a very interesting one and very attracting one, to be very honest. Guys, as I tell you that Kamran was previously working with Amazon. So the topic for today's interview that we have with Kamran is, why did I choose to go to a startup rather than Amazon? Right. So Kamran, the first question that I would like to ask you here is that it was like, when did you realize that it was time for you to move ahead from Amazon, to move on from Amazon? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think that's a great question because when I first joined Amazon, I was a new grad. So I joined in as an SD1, then quickly got promoted to an SD2, working on great projects in there. But after a point, I just felt like being inside Amazon or any big company, as a matter of fact, is like you use all their internal tools and stuff, so you do not get the exposure to the outside world. And you're very, like, your responsibilities are very streamlined. So I decided that I really wanted to work in a fast-paced environment on products that are really changing the world. So, and that's when I realized that I needed to go to a startup to, make more impact in my life and others' lives as well.
Okay, so I mean, was it a difficult choice for you leaving Amazon for a startup? Like, what
It, Yeah, it definitely was. It was like I had like a couple of weeks of back and forth. I had this notepad in which I was writing all the pros and cons. It was like a super difficult decision for me to leave a stable job at a FAANG and move on to a startup, which, given the current situation in the world, is like it's a 50-50% chance that your startup might succeed or might not. But I still decided to take the leap because, what's life without risks?
Definitely, very well said. I was just about to say, what's life without this? So, very well said, I guess. So, quickly coming on to the next question, I would like to ask you, ever since, how long has it been that you are working in a startup now?
It's been like 3 months now.
3 months. And how long do you work in Amazon?
2 years.
2 years. So, let's ask you the first question, which the viewers would want to know. So, the first question to you would be, Kamran, in the last 3 months, what are the differences in learnings you have got in the startup, in your present company, and compared to Amazon?
Yeah, like I said in my first introduction as well, it's like working at a startup, you get a great exposure to all of these open source technologies. They do not have internal tools. So, whatever you're working on is open source and everyone else is also working on it. And definitely something that I felt in my 3 months was, although you're hired for a specific team, since my startup only has like 15 engineers, you are always chipping in different roles and like wearing different hats. I was hired as a backend software engineer, but I also work in like front end, helping the infrastructure team as well, and like in multiple roles. Like we do the design ourselves. We are our own project managers. We like plan everything out, and everything is done by the very little resources that we have at the company. And you're working with and once you're working at a startup, the cool thing is that they have this cool ecosystem. So each startup is actually using the products built by some other startup. So there's this very close knit customer care and like startup culture when you're working in one of these startups. So I think that's a really cool thing because you find out how many cool products are out there and how many these little startups are there that are revolutionizing the world.
Definitely, I think that was very well said. So I also want to ask you, as a software guy, as an IT guy, engineer, so are you also, kind of doing, like you said, you work on multiple domains, right? So now you said you were in backend, you were hired as backend, but then you are also doing frontend. So I just want to ask you, are you also involved in some testing part?
Yes, we are. We always do the testing, and a lot of times, like since my product, like the company that I'm working for, is a more customer-facing product. A lot of times, what we do is we install the app ourselves. We go to the websites ourselves. We do the testing. We think of all the inputs and outputs and scenarios that customers can go through, and try to go through that real life loop to just figure out how the customer experience is, if there are any problems and pain points that we ourselves can find. So we do the testing, we do the customer experience, we do everything from end to end when we are building a project.
That's I think one of the biggest learning and exposure, if I can put it in that way. Right? I mean, maybe at Amazon you were just doing the SD1 and SD2 thing, right? But now I think you are open to various teams, various fields. Let's say your ownership is more than what it used to be earlier, right? So I also think exposure is pretty amazing in a startup. Like how you're describing it, it makes me excited also, right?
Yeah, for sure. And it's like, the startup is like everyone knows everyone in the company. And I really like that culture because there are very few people, and like Amazon or Google or any big company, there are like thousands of engineers. So it's impossible probably to, everyone to know like most of the company. But in startup, everyone knows everyone. And if you need something, you can just, walk to their door and just discuss it with them. And, if there are any impacting project that you can think of, you can just suggest to them instead of, in any big company. It's like if you're working on AWS, you cannot give suggestions on Amazon.com, or it's difficult to give suggestions on that. But in a startup, you can give suggestions on any product you want, and it's actually taken into consideration and sometimes actually worked on.
So I think the freedom to speech is a very big thing in a startup. Is what you're trying to
Yeah,
say, right?
absolutely. Yeah.
Great, great. Very good to know this. So my next question to you is, how are you, taking the difference in work culture?
I think I'm definitely taking it hard because I think it definitely took a little bit getting used to this culture because there's a very little hierarchy in here. There are definitely managers, but there are also developers. So it's like a very friendly ecosystem that you are in, and you're working with people that are also managing you. So it was definitely new for me, but I'm getting used to it and actually I'm enjoying it. So I really think that it was not hard, but a great experience. It's still a great experience for me to be
Yeah,
in a environment like that.
definitely. So coming from Amazon, where it's like very professional, very highly professional corporate, and then coming to a startup where it's like so friendly. Like, how do you feel? Like, the change is the positive one, a neutral one, definitely not negative one. So not.
I definitely think like 100% positive because in companies like in startups that are like this closely knit, every little achievement is celebrated. We have like parties on every project launch we have. We really celebrate that. We acknowledge everyone's work. We have these like bi-weekly all hands in which like the entire company comes in and we acknowledge the work engineers or customer care or anyone has done. There is no hierarchy or saying that a software engineer is above in hierarchy than a customer support associate. We do not have that hierarchy, and we acknowledge everyone's work in the company, which is very different than any mega company that you'll see. So I think it's a positive experience and a positive impact on how I think the company's work and towards the perspective, and that really creates a very close bond of yours with the company because you're now truly passionate about the products you're building.
Definitely. So once again, a very positive response from your end. The work culture has been really amazing for you. Shifting from a very professional 2 years. I think you were there in Amazon for 2 years or more.
Yeah, a little more than 2 years, but yeah, 2 years or a couple of
So
months.
I mean, coming at I can say 2.5 years, and then coming to the start of almost. So let's come to the little facts, like little minute details. So the first thing, what's the name of your current startup?
I'm working in a startup called Cloud Trucks.
Cloud Trucks,
Yes.
right? And how many employees are there?
I think we just like since very recently in December we raised our Series B. So after that we quickly scaled up to like 110 employees, out of which I think we have 15 engineers.
15 are engineers only, and the rest maybe 95 are different roles like sales,
Yeah.
right? So you
Yeah.
also have an interaction with the sales guy, the marketing guys, the product guys, the HRs,
Yeah.
the customer support.
Yeah, we have interactions with everyone. We have like specific groups made with them where they can directly talk to engineers if in case they have problems. So yeah.
Great, great. That is actually really amazing. So my next question, the most attractive questions of all time. So leaving, I'm sure your pay in Amazon was also as good as it is now. But then I'm sure coming to a startup definitely means something extra apart from learning. Definitely there has to be some monetary additions to it, right? So in the same regards, I would also like to ask you, what has been a difference in your pay structure?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a great question, and that'll help a lot of people. Is that there is a myth around that startups do not pay well. Well, my startup definitely pays really well. We had like a 20, like from my Amazon's like cash, like the monthly pay that you get. It was I took a 20% bump when I moved to Cloud Trucks, and my joining bonus was around 40% of my total compensation, the annual compensation. But the only difference I think in like the total compensation that we talk about is, Amazon is a public company, so the stocks you get there is actual money. But in startups, you do not get stocks; you get a equity. So my equity was pretty decent. It was in monetary value, it was pretty much the same as Amazon, but equities work kind of differently than actual public stocks. And I think that's a topic for a different video. But so I got like I think 200% of equity that with my total compensation.
So that's I think so that so you're trying to say. I mean, what I can infer from this is that your in-hand salary, which we typically call the in-hand thing, has increased.
Yes, I would definitely say that the cash part has definitely increased. The stock part, I would say, has definitely taken a hit. But that's the risk you take when you join a startup. Like, I truly believe that our startup is on the right direction to do something great. So, equities are only worth something when the company is either acquired or goes public or something like that. But yeah, the cash part has definitely increased from what I was receiving at Amazon.
Definitely. So also I would like to ask you when someone of your experience, suppose 2.5 years in a FAANG or a bank in that case, joins a startup like Cloud Trucks or maybe any in that case. So what is
Mhm.
the average the compensation that is expected to be paid in USD?
Parag, I think this definitely differs a lot from state to state because there are some high cost of living states like California, New
Yeah.
York. So in those states, you will definitely have more pay, but more taxes and more cost of living as well, compared to somewhere like Texas where I'm living. But in general, in all of the interviews I've given with different startups and offers that I've received, I would say that for someone with, like I was an SD2 at Amazon, so a mid-level software engineer with anything more than 2 years of experience can expect between like 200 to $300,000 per annum in
Madam,
compensation.
and
That's
that including your bonuses?
yes, that is including my bonuses, but excluding the equities because equities are vested differently.
Great. That is, I think, indeed amazing. Right. So
Yeah.
the next question is that I would want to know. I'm sure even when you joined Amazon, they gave you a lot of goodies and all, right? But when you joined Cloud Trucks, what were the goodies that you got?
I honestly think that I got a lot more goodies compared to Amazon and Cloud Trucks. I got a T-shirt, I got a hoodie, I got a water bottle. It was basically a thermos. I got a phone stand like this. I got a cable management thing, and I got a cool little truck, a toy, because we deal with trucks. Yeah, it was really good. I got cool socks, stickers, a lot of things. And one good thing that I definitely think with this startup was you get a choice of your laptop. Like I think a lot of companies give you that, but the thing is like in Amazon, if you were to choose a MacBook, you would get a MacBook that is like maybe 2018, 2020. But with startup, you would get the latest MacBook and with whatever configurations you have, which is definitely something that I would need, considering the load of work that we're doing. So in terms of goodies and perks, I wouldn't say perks because startups have a different set of perks compared to like big companies. But in terms of swag, I would say that I got a lot more in Cloud Trust compared to Amazon.
So definitely, I think your onboarding was amazing. Right.
Yeah.
Also, would like to ask you that are you using the MacBook Pro latest version right now?
Yes, I am. I'm right now on that with in this call.
Definitely. And also, I think you're wearing the same T-shirt as Cloud Trucks as
Yeah,
your
I
company,
am.
right? Yes,
I
yeah.
don't know.
Excellent, excellent, great. So, coming to my next question. So, what do you feel are the difference in perks? Only perks, okay? Now, I'm not mentioning like money here, but the perks, maybe relocation, leaves, anything in that case. You can maybe elaborate it in a better way.
I think perks for like my role was like completely remote. That is what I negotiated for. So, but in general, if I wanted to relocate, my company would take up all the costs of relocation to California, where the company is based, and my company like provides insurance for you and your dependents, so that's taken care of. My company has a 401k, which is like a pension account. It provides that, and I think there are a lot of perks, but given that it's a startup, it doesn't have that tightly knit network that big companies have with, some car rental providers or mobile network providers and stuff like that. So in perks, I would say where it definitely matters, insurance, pension funds, and stuff like that. My startup does a pretty good job in that. But extra perks like discounts and stuff, some mobiles and stuff like that. That is something that I think Amazon has an edge on, and I think that's obvious because it's a
Definitely.
trillion-dollar
For,
company. So.
for very obvious reasons, yes, yes.
Mhm.
Right. So, my next question to you would be like, Kamran, so how do you feel the change in lifestyle? Like, at present, like, how are you feeling? 3 months into a new startup from such a big name. So, how do you feel the change in lifestyle is? Like, is
I
your
think I'm
workload more, less? You get more time with your family, less time, more sleep. So, just, that way.
I think if you look at a bird's eye view, I'm kind of working a little bit more than I was working at Amazon. But the thing is, and that is because every time you join a new company, you spend more time on work because you're still onboarding, you're trying to understand the product and the things you're working on. But apart from that, I think work-life balance is mostly unaffected, and still, that is something that you as a employee enforce on yourself. I make sure that no matter how much work is there, I do not work past 5 p.m. No matter what happens, because work can wait. There are deadlines that can be pushed around, but if you once you get used to working past that work hours window, you're just taken for granted that this employee is anyways going to stay up late, so we're going to give them more work. But I make sure. But also, I feel like Amazon has set me up for success in a way that any project that I work on now, it just makes sense. I'm quick to work on it, so I'm quick to deliver projects. So definitely, it totally depends on you and how you want to spend your work life. But I make sure that I do not damage my work life balance no matter what company I join.
So your work-life balance is as good as it was in Amazon. But then, yeah, you're working
A little bit more. Yeah.
It's fine. I
Yeah.
think that's, and also because I think you have joined an early age startup and that too with a
Yeah.
small team, and I think the qualities and capabilities that you hold, I think the team needs you. Hence, I think it all makes a bit more sense, right? So,
Yeah.
Coming to my last question, the most important one, how is the difference in learning and growth for you in the last 3 months?
I think learning wise, there was so much that I had to learn because we were working on all of these open source technologies, for pipelines. And we were using this startup that was called Circle CI because that allows for continuous integration. It was a startup as well, so we integrated with them. Then I worked on Stripe because my main project was building like a credit card and an entire fintech. So we worked with Stripe and played all of these cool startups that are huge. And there was a lot of learning in general. And I definitely think that growth wise, I feel like the more I stay in a company like this, I'll definitely move up the ladder because, when joining a startup, that is what the advantage is of the risk that you take is if you stay long enough, you definitely go up the ladder because you are an early adopter and early engineer in that company. So I think definitely growth wise, since it's just 3 months, as in like I would say personal growth, like as an engineer, I've definitely learned a lot and I'm still learning a lot. But in terms of like going up the ladder and growing in that sense, I still have to experience that. But I've seen people in my company who've grown really quickly because the better you get, the company would prefer you to promote you to like senior levels rather than hire someone from outside because obviously you know more about the product. And since the company is so closely knit, your accomplishments are not like foresighted. They're always looked upon. They're always acknowledged that something that you're working on is definitely looked upon by the CEOs, CTOs, everyone in the company. So the growth is definitely a lot better and easier, I would say, in a startup because everyone knows what you're doing. So yeah, and that is the primary reason as well that I chose to join a startup.
Definitely, and I also think all of these things, appreciation, recognition. I think all of these things makes you want to do more, and I think makes you more confident, right?
Absolutely, Parag. It definitely boosts your confidence for sure because in startups you have very little help and you have to do a lot of stuff by yourself. So you're forced out of your comfort zone. And I think that whenever you are out of your comfort zone, that is where the learning actually starts. So
Definitely. Definitely. So, thank you very much, Kamran, for your time, spending your time with us and telling the viewers how only not FAANG can shape up lives, but also coming to a startup can
absolutely.
change everything, right? So, this is a
Sure, yeah.
huge misconception that, if you get into a FAANG, life is sorted. But I think today, looking at you, after this video, I'm sure, after this interview, I'm sure people would be much more aware of what are the opportunities available for them out there. I think at the end of the day, it's the skills that matter.
Yeah, I definitely think that students should stop the craze for FANG because there's a lot of learning in other companies as well. If you want to go to FANG, great, but make sure that you have your options open because there are a lot of cool companies out there who are actually changing lives, and you will be definitely passionate about those products when you join a startup.
Definitely. So once again, thank you very much, Kamran. Really appreciate your time and efforts. I'm sure